Okay, good afternoon, guys. I'm making something that I'm just throwing together. Butter's already melting. As you know, it's Kerrygold. It's not burning. Actually, there's a little fond left in the pan, and that is from the chicken thighs that I have over here, which I par cooked. There's a little bit of the leftover sauce from that in there, and I have that as reserve in case I need any more. So chicken tinga is a Mexican dish that I think comes out best with chicken thighs, which I have 8 pretty large ones over there. Over here, I have some of the other ingredients that are going to go in here, which is some diced tomatoes, some tomato sauce. This is chipotle paste. I prefer using it in the jar than buying the can. To me, it's just easier to utilize. I have a Vidalia onion and a yellow onion and some garlic cloves chopped up. That's what I'm putting in here right now. So what I'm doing with these is I'm going to brown them off a little bit, try to pick up a little of that delicious flavor off the pan from the chicken. And what you basically do is just brown the onions a little bit, and then you could pull off some of that those brown bits from the chicken. That's why I retained a little bit of the juice from that. You can add that back in for more flavor too. But once you get the onions a little bit tender, I'm not going to go through the whole entire process with you. It's just like doing a chili. It just takes too long. So I'm going to give you the basic steps, and then later on when it's time to serve it, which probably won't be till later tonight or even possibly tomorrow, because it does take a little while to cook. I am going to cook it right in this pan. You can do it in a crock pot if you'd like. So you can take the onions down to completely tender, which is, the best idea. A lot of people don't like to leave them whole like this. I personally like them like this. So this comes out to where the chicken cooks down in here for a couple hours in the tomato sauce. You could use vegetable broth or chicken broth. I'm using chicken broth. I'm going to show you the other spices, but most people do take a portion of this out and then blend out the sauce, so that when you fork the chicken and shred it apart, it's more or less conformed to just the shredded chicken, and the onions and the sauce are smooth. I like the big pieces of onion in my soft shell taco with the pieces of shredded chicken, the sauce, and then putting on the cojito cheese, some avocado, and some fresh cilantro, and then, fresh lime. So that's the toppings that I put with it. But the onions will cook down in the sauce. So I'm just going to show you the spices that I add, and then I am going to let the onions cook down, add in the tomatoes, the vegetable broth, and the chicken back in, and then it'll cook for several hours, and then I will pull the chicken out, shred it, and add it back to the sauce. Now you can always, once you pull the chicken out and shred it, if you'd like to take the sauce and put it in a blender, you can, and those onions can all, they will soften quite a bit. But if you do not like the big pieces of onions, you can take them with the sauce once you pull the chicken out when it's completely done, and shred the chicken on the side, put the sauce in a blender, and make it smooth. There are cooks that do that or chefs that do that, but that's not how I like it. I like the onions whole. So I'm putting in a teaspoon of thyme. This is both a teaspoon of each garlic and onion powder, a teaspoon of salt and pepper, because we do have a lot of tomatoes and chicken to season. The marinade of the chicken that I did marinate it in was semi the same flavors here. I always use a little vinegar and oil when I marinate my chicken, because the vinegar helps to break it down. And that was a teaspoon and a half of cumin. So that's going to give it that great Mexican flavor. You can use chili powder if you'd like. I like the cumin because I'm going to be adding the chipotle. So this chipotle paste, I already opened the lid to show you guys. It is like super thick. And this stuff will last for forever in your refrigerator. So I am going to do like 2 really big tablespoons of this. instead of buying the can and then needing to puree, I'm going to actually add a little bit more. I'm going to rest the spoon right in there in that extra sauce, so in case I need to use that later. So then that chipotle is going to give it that smoky flavor, and you need enough in there to flavor up those 2 cans of tomatoes. I mean, this smells delicious already, and the chicken's not cooked down, and the vegetable broth and everything else isn't in there. But I mean, this just smells delicious just like this. It smells great. So now we're going to add in the 1 can of tomato sauce, and I'll rinse the cans out with the vegetable broth. 1 can of the diced tomatoes. So we have those 2 cans in there. And I'll just, again, mix this through. And if you don't like onions, don't add the onions. If you want to add no onions, you don't have to. And like I said, if they're too thick for you and the chunky tomatoes are too thick, once the chicken is completely done cooking, you can take the, I'm adding some chicken or vegetable broth to these cans to rinse them out. I'm going to do about a cup of broth. So I'm going to put about a half a cup in each can here and rinse them out. And then put the cup of chicken broth in here. So now we have enough of a vehicle for the chicken to cook in. So I'm going to mix that. And then I'm just going to add the chicken back. That's my extra spoons over there. Back into the pot. And as I said, I like cook the chicken. And if you have extra sauce, what you could do is take it out, and you could put it in the blender, and then the next time you make chicken tinga, you don't have to, and don't forget to put in all that excellent broth that came off of the chicken that you par cooked. And if you have the extra, broth, so the next time you make it, you just have to cook down the chicken, take that extra broth that you have out of the freezer, and then if you only have, say, a small pack of chicken, maybe you have 4 pieces, this is 8, but there were 8 or 10 here, then you can use that the next time. Just blend it down and freeze it and put it in a freezer-safe container and use it again. So I'm going to put this to like low on my, I have an electric stove, so I'm just going to leave it at like 3, and I'm going to let this cook for a couple hours, and I'll just keep stirring it, and then once the chicken is fork tender, I'm going to pull it out, and I'll blend a portion of this in my blender and take it down a little bit, so there's some that's like slurry-ish, so it doesn't slop all over the soft tacos. And then I will be cutting up an avocado, lemon wedges. I have cojito cheese, and then fresh cilantro. You could serve this in soft shell, hard shell, whatever you like. You can make a combo of the both. You can modify. As I said, you could use chicken broth if you like. You could, use whatever you want to make this. And as I said, you could take the broth all the way down and make it completely a slurry so that you have no chunks at all. So give it a try. You could kick up the spice. You can, use this chipotle for the smoky. If you wanted to add some cayenne or some habanero, you could definitely make it a little bit spicier. But I will show you the final pictures, the way it gets served, and I hope if you try it, you enjoy it. Have a good night. Tune back in at 6 o'clock for the giveaway. Have a good night, beholders.